Hello, thank you for watching Tech tutorials. In this video I'm gonna show you how to add a dual hard drive to your iMac. So basically we're gonna replace the super drive or CD or DVD player for one SSD drive or solid state drive. So these are the original specs of my iMac. Basically it's an iMac, Apple iMac with an Intel Core i5 processor. It's a 2.66 gigahertz, 27 inch. It's the late 2009 model. So by default, it is configured with 4 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte, 7200 rounds per minute. So it has a 512 megabytes graphics card ATI. So basically I did this modification like 2 years ago, and so far I haven't had any issues. So as you can see to the right, here are the system configurations right now that I have. So I have the Mac OS is being installed in a SSD 512 gigabytes hard drive. So basically I'm just using the solid state drive just to install the Mac OS and software. And I have a 4 terabyte hard drive as well. It's a Hitachi hard drive, 4 terabytes. Then I've been using just for storage, just to store my videos, pictures, music, and documents. So here are the two hard drives that I have. So as you can see, I have the Apple SSD drive, and I have the Hitachi 4 terabytes as well installed. Basically what I did, I replaced the 1 terabyte for 4 terabytes. So here are the tools that we're gonna need for this work. So we're gonna need a T9 or T10 screwdriver. So you can buy this screwdriver set in Amazon. This is how it looks like. So here is the set. So it's like $9. If you are a Prime member, they can Amazon ship the parts to you or for free, but you have to pay a membership. So we're gonna need two suction cups. So here are the two that I found in Amazon. So they are like $5 for two. And the other tools that we're gonna need is an X-Acto knife. So here is the tools that we're gonna need. They are in Amazon as well, or if you have a Dremel, it will be much better. So we're gonna need a cable as well. That way we can power cable is like a power splitter cable. So that way in the male connector we can connect the existing cable that is connected to our hard drive. And one of the females will be connected to the solid state drive, and the other one it will be connected to the other hard drive. So the first step that we're gonna do is to clone our hard drive. Basically we're gonna clone our hard drive to an SSD. So in this case I have the files already being cloned. So for this step I'm using a super duper software. So we need to remove the glass. That's our first step. So first you need to add the suction cups and just try to pull the glass up very slowly. Yeah, so then you have to slide it up. Yeah, and put it outside. So next, we need to remove the screws that are holding the LCD in place. So there are 8 screws, 4 in each side. So I'm gonna give you a better view. Okay. So here is the the screw locations. So I say before, there are 8 screws, 4 on 4 in the left side and 4 in the right side. So I'm using a T9 screwdriver. So I don't have a T10, so I'm using a T9, but it works fine. So you don't have a T10, don't worry, use a T9 screwdriver. It should work fine. So I'm gonna speed up the process, that way I don't keep you for too long, because this video will be very long. I think more than 30 minutes. Okay, so once you remove the screws, then you can pull the LCD. You can insert your finger or you can insert a plastic tool. I prefer to use a plastic, or you can use a metal screwdriver as well if you want. So the first step, we need to remove the cables or disconnect the cables from the motherboard or from the boards, PC boards. So the first cable that we're gonna disconnect is this flexible black cable. So we're just gonna pull it up. Okay. So second cable is the LVDS cable. So this is tricky. So the best way to remove this cable is to insert your finger under the connector. So first we're gonna pull the one side at the time. So we're gonna insert under the connector, or we're gonna insert our finger and then pull it up. The other side. As you can see, I'm putting my finger under the connector and I'm just pushing it up. So, okay. So the other cable is this, I think is the sensor. So if you can grab the connector instead of the cables, it will be much better. That way you don't damage the cable. So the other cable then we need to disconnect is the power cable. So I don't have fingernails, so I have to push this thing down. Okay, I think that's it. Those are the only cables that we have to remove. So I kind of lay down the computer again. So I have to lift the LCD with the screwdriver. In this case, you have to use a very like a metal screwdriver, because the LCD is kind of heavy. So just lift it maybe like 2-3 inches and just slice it up and pull it up. So I'm just showing you the cables, then we just remove. I mean the connection of the cables, basically. So you can skip the next step if you know if your 2009 iMac model don't support a dual hard drive. So you can fast forward to minute number 19 in this video. that's where I start removing the optical drive. So here is the location where we gonna put our SSD. So here is the picture of the screws that we're gonna remove. That way we can pull a little bit the motherboard. So I want to mention that you should be careful when you are removing these screws from the motherboard, because there are some screws that are longer than the other ones. Just put attention when you are removing each screw. There should be a total of 8 screws. So I will point where are the screw locations. So here is the screw number 1. The number 2 should be under the flexible cable. This is number 3. Number 4. Number 5 in the middle. Number 6, 7, and 8. So as I say before, the number 2 should be under the flexible cable. I forgot to point it. So let me see if I can see on the back of the motherboard. It's hard to see. I cannot see if my motherboard support a dual hard drive. So I have to remove this ambient light sensor. That way it gives me more room to pull the motherboard. Touch me. Sorry. So we just need to pull it up. You can remove it completely if you want, but I just want to make some room. That way I can see better on the back of the motherboard. There is a plastic cavity holding the sensor. So next we need to remove this aluminum cover that is protecting the memory or the RAM. So we need to remove the 3 screws. So we need to untie the 3 screws. There are like a plastic tabs, and we need to pull down to remove the RAM. So these are the plastic tabs. So I will hold my phone, that way I can keep recording, but it's very hard to pull them with one hand. So we'll see if I can focus. But I'm gonna pull them down with my 2 hands basically. That way I can lose the RAM. Okay, so you need to remove the memory card. Okay, so I think it's loose now, so I will check if so you can disconnect these cables as well. These are for sensors and things like that. I'm just showing you just in case you wonder how it looks like from behind. Okay, so you need to disconnect these all these cables plus the radio card cable as well. That way you make more room to see if there is an extra SATA cable on the back of your motherboard. Let me see if I can see better now. So I don't have fingernails, so I'm trying to use these tools to to unplug the connectors. So I'm trying to do it the easiest way, that way you don't have to remove all the cables and connections. So I'm just trying to see if there is a second SATA connector on the back of my motherboard. That way I can connect the second hard drive without removing my optical drive. That way I can keep my optical drive. It doesn't look like it has a second connector. Let me see if I can give you a better view of how it looks like on the back of the motherboard. A different video how it looks like on the back of the motherboard. There are two connectors, one vertical, one horizontal. The vertical one is for the SATA connector that goes to the optical drive, and the horizontal one is for the hard drive. So as you can see here, the SATA optical drive connector is on the vertical position and the hard drive connector is on the horizontal. So this is another picture of the 2010 models. So you can see they support a dual hard drive. Some of the models they support a dual hard drive. And this is another picture of the 2011 model. You can see here the layout, the connector layout is different. So in this case, this model, the 2000 late 2009 model, doesn't have the second hard drive connection. So I will speed up the process. That way I don't keep you for too long watching this video. So I'm just reconnecting all the cables back. At the same time, I'm trying to align the motherboard. So one thing that I want to show you is to align the motherboard. You have to insert as many connections on the back as you can. Like for instance, if you have four USB connections, you can use 4 USB cables. That way you align your motherboard in the correct way. If you have an Ethernet cable as well, you can plug it in. If you have maybe an audio jack connector, you can plug it in as well. That way you can align all the holes correctly. So I'm gonna put the screws back. So this is the screw number 1, and the second one is under the flex cable. So don't forget to add that one. So as I mentioned, just put attention to the screws that you just remove, because there are some screws are shorter than the other ones. Okay, so the next step, we're gonna remove the optical drive or the CD DVD player. So first we need to remove this sensor. So it has like a black tape on top of it, so we have to peel it off and disconnect this sensor from the optical drive. Just be very careful. You can insert something sharp. I prefer to use these Sharpie tools, these plastic sharp tools, to remove things. That way you don't damage or break things. So just leave it there. So then we need to remove the four T10 or T9 screws. So one thing that you can do with this optical drive, um, if you want to use it, so you can buy like an external enclosure for these optical drives. I will give you the link. I will post the link in my video description below, so that way you can go to the Amazon website or to the eBay website, and you can purchase one of the enclosures for these optical drives. If you are planning to reuse it, basically you want to play CDs or watch a DVD movie. So here is the enclosure that I found in Amazon for $12. So this is just the enclosure. It doesn't have the CD, DVD drive or optical drive. It's just enclosure. So as you can see, it's like a USB enclosure basically. As you can see here in the questions, so they tell you that it's just an enclosure. It doesn't have a optical drive inside. Let me see if I can find a better picture. That way I can show you the inside, how it looks like. But here are the questions and answers from some of the customers that I already bought this enclosure. So let me go to eBay. Maybe they have a better pictures than Amazon. That way I can show you how it looks like from the inside. It's an USB drive. Okay, here is the eBay website. As you can see, it's a plastic enclosure. So plus it's a USB 2. I think it's 2.0, 2.0, USB 2.0. So you're gonna install the, you're gonna plug in the optical drive into this SATA connection. So this is how it looks like, and it's a plastic enclosure. It's not aluminum, it's not metal, it's just plastic. But it should be okay if you are for what you are trying to use it for. So the bottom cover is black and the top cover is white with a USB connector. Okay, here is the eBay website. So it's like $13, and I believe the Amazon is 12, so it's a dollar more in the eBay store. So I need to modify the connector, the original connector that was connected to the optical drive originally. So I have to modify the connector because I cannot use it as is. So the modification that we're gonna do is we have to cut this connector in two, basically. So that's why we're gonna use the X-Acto knife for the cutting tool that I told you before that we're gonna need. So this is the cable that we are gonna need to make the connection to our solid state drive and to our hard drive. So here is the connector. So the male connector, it will be connected to the original cable that the hard drive was using, and the female, it will be connected to the hard drive, and the other end of the female connector will be connected to the solid state drive, basically. So here is another picture of the modification that I did. So basically you have to cut the connector in two pieces, and just put attention to um, to the connector, to the bottom, I mean the middle of the connector, there is like a metal or a PCB insert. So this is the hard part, I believe. So we're gonna speed up the process here a little bit. So if you have a Dremel tool, it will be much better than cutting the connector with an X-Acto knife. So I have to modify the power connector as well, as you can see here. So this is the modification that I did to make the connection right. So I have to cut one side of the connector a little bit. This connector is just made of plastic. It's not like that. It's not like this one. This one is like a plastic with a metal insert or PCB. So it's hard to cut. So I'm gonna remove this blue napkin that I put there just to keep all the small pieces out of the way of my motherboard. So I'm just doing the connections so everything fits right. So now I need to run the cable. So as you can see here, this male connector, it will be connected to the original hard drive connector or cable, like this. And the other end, it will be connected to the hard drive, to the 1 terabyte or 4 terabyte hard drive. So I have a different video how to upgrade your original hard drive for a more capacity hard drive, but that's a different video. So the hard drive that you are seeing right now is the original 1 terabyte hard drive, because I don't want to keep this video for too long. So I have a different video how to upgrade the original hard drive for a higher capacity one. So I'm gonna use some tie wraps just to tie the cables. So I will speed up the process as well. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is just gonna add a double-sided sticky tape on the bottom of my hard drive or solid state drive, so that way I keep it in place. So I'm not trying to align it perfectly because I'm gonna put the LCD anyways, nobody's gonna see it. I just want to keep it secure. Plus this double-sided tape is very strong. It hold the parts very nice. So gonna cut the excess here. And here as well. So I'm just gonna keep it in this location because the SATA cable that I'm using from the optical drive is not long enough, so I'm just gonna keep it here. So like I said before, I'm trying to do this tutorial the simplest and the cheapest way as possible. That's why I'm reusing the SATA cable from my optical drive. And as you can see, the power cable that I bought in Amazon is like $4 or $6. That's how much I paid. So to secure the power cable from the optical drive, because we don't gonna use it anymore, so I'm gonna add a double-sided sticky tape, and I'm going to stick it on the piece of plastic that is right here. So I'm just gonna stick it there because I'm not using it. It won't do anything bad to your computer. So like I say, I'm just doing this tutorial now because I recorded this video like 2 years ago, but I didn't have time to make the tutorial, so that's what I'm doing it right now. So I'm just making sure that all the connections are secure. That's what I'm doing before I close the computer. So I just make sure that the cables are not like overbent and things like that, and make sure that they are not crossing any hard surface. Then you can smash them where you can smash them. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so everything is secure, so I'm gonna add the sensor. So I'm gonna stick it on the back of the solid state drive. So I'm gonna add the black tape, the original I have. So it's nice and secure. So now I'm just making sure that all the connections, all the cables are secure before I close, before I put the LCD back on. So okay, so next I'm gonna connect the cables. So the LVDS cable, the black flexible cable, the gray and black. So I'm turning on the computer for the first time. So I want to mention that I haven't added the screws. I just connect the cables and I put the LCD back on, but I haven't used the screws. So everything looks normal. Let me see, let me add my password. Perfect. Well, perfect. Everything is working okay. So let me. So now you can see that I have two hard drive icons. I have the SSD 512 gigabytes and I have the 4 terabytes Macintosh hard drive as well. So I don't know, you can see the specs here, but like I say, I'm using the solid state drive just to install the Mac OS and the software. So, and I'm gonna use the 4 terabytes just to I'm gonna use it just for storage basically. So everything is looking okay. Everything is fine. I don't see anything bad. So okay, so everything's working fine. So I'm gonna align the holes for the screws. That way I can put the screws back on. So I will speed up the process as well. So I'm gonna add the 8 screws, 4 on the left, 4 on the right. I just want to mention that these screws are the same size, so don't worry if you mix them. They are exactly the same size. So I will clean the LCD as well. That way I keep all the dust out of my screen. So I almost done. So I'm just cleaning the LCD, and I will clean the glass as well, and I put it back on. So the way that you're gonna insert the glass is by putting the back on the bottom side first, and then the top, very slowly. Just want to say thank you for watching.